All right.
We got video and everything? We're good?
I think so. Jonathan, are we live?
We're live.
Okay.
Hey, this is Mark with High Energy Labs. Little slow on the start on the technicals, but we got that figured out. I got a good friend and expert, Nathaniel Drew, here today. I just call him Nate. You can call him Nate. He's good with that. He's good with whatever.
Yeah.
So anyways, today we're going to talk about something that's a growing epidemic that probably mostly everyone out there can relate to. I usually don't have difficulty sleeping, but I know 2/3 of Americans do not get 8 hours of sleep a night, and it causes all sorts of problems. And there's some new recent research that we came across. This is a story done on, was it CBS?
Yeah, CBS.
CBS, and we'll be showing that little clip, which I thought it was kind of fascinating. I think you guys will like that. But stay tuned, because we're going to be talking about why people have difficulty sleeping. We're going to be talking about what you can do about it. We're going to be talking about how it impacts your health. And we're going to be talking about how you can become healthier and happier, and do some tricks and tips that we're going to give you based on scientific research to give you a better night's sleep. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, guys. Thanks for being on the show today, Nate.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited.
So I always love it when Nate's on the show. I've gone back and looked at previous shows, and we get the highest traffic rate when Nate is on the show for some reason. I can't figure it out. Actually, I know why, because he's so entertaining and so energetic and is a plethora. Would you say, Nathan, that you are a plethora of knowledge?
A plethora of Can you have a plethora of knowledge?
I don't know, I guess.
Yes, I'm a plethora of knowledge.
So anyways, let's just Nate wanted to talk. He told me, look, I want to start talking about recovery. And this ties in perfectly to sleep. So we're going to touch a little bit on recovery, because you told me that you were having some difficulty kind of struggling with recovery.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm training for the Olympics. The biggest thing for me is I can go out and work out.
As a shot putter.
Well, discus, actually.
Oh, discus. Yeah. I thought you were doing shot put.
No.
Oh, my bad.
I can train all day long. Like, I enjoy going out and working my body, but at some point my body says, okay, you're done. And if I work out too hard, then I have to spend the next couple of days just recovering from it. So it's this balancing act.
I think as we get older, we notice more of that. Obviously, I'm much older than Nate. 72 years old. High Energy Labs products work amazingly. Take them and you'll look just like me.
Absolutely.
It's actually not true. But anyways, no, I've noticed, and I think there's multiple factors that tie into this, that we've kind of discussed in the past.
Yeah.
So, the first one, as we get older, human growth hormone levels start dropping off. Also, if we're not sleeping well, that can be a problem with recovery.
Yeah, for sure.
And then lastly, diet and nutrition. So that is going to definitely have an impact on our recovery and our performance, and how we, whether we're training, whether just recreational, jogging or riding our bikes or whatever it is that everyone out there does.
Yeah, and quite frankly, recovery is just as important as the working out itself.
Yeah.
Because what happens with muscles is you actually tear down your muscles when you're working them out. And where the magic happens is that our muscles realize, I've got to rebuild, and they rebuild bigger, better, stronger. That's the whole point of working out, is that they rebuild. So if you're always
I'm looking at Nate, at his tree trunk arms going, yeah, you don't have a problem with recovery.
Well, I mean,
as far as energy levels you're talking about and all that, and
well, but
rebuilding.
that's with muscles too, right?
Sure, of course.
I mean, if you work out every single day, it's going to keep tearing down your muscle and tearing down your muscle and tearing down your muscle. And so you've got to find that time to recover. And honestly, the best time to recover is sleeping.
Yeah.
Sleeping is the best
I mean,
time
that's
to recover.
really when our bodies are designed to repair, rebuild, and restore.
Yeah.
That's when HGH levels are released from the pituitary gland. Mm-hmm. That's why, that's the time to repair and rebuild. But you brought an interesting point. There's a lot of people that overtrain, and I've run into people that they're like, look, I'm trying to put on muscle. I just can't put on muscle. Now, some of it is genetics, and there's different body types as far as there's people that put on muscle easier than others
Right.
based on their genetics or based on body types. However, I believe that anyone has the potential to put on muscle if they're doing the right things, if they're training correctly, and if they're recovering correctly, and if they're eating the right nutrients and taking the right things.
I think sometimes genetics is a little bit of a cop-out because our genetics are altered by our environment.
Yeah?
So genetics, yes, you're right. Genetics play a large role in it. But if we're talking about the actual, so when
I'm
you're
referring to like long, short muscle fibers. There's people that have enzymes that break down. For example, those Burma bulls. Have you seen
right.
those?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they do nothing, but yet they're like almost 100% pure muscle. It's just like,
So I had a friend come in, and we have a vacuum going on
Yeah.
up there.
at the studio, we like to keep it clean. So,
Yeah, we're giving it clean
it's
today.
all about cleanliness. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
So I had a friend come in, and she was talking about her kids, and her 14-year-old boy, he's African-American, and she's like, oh, yeah, the coach is having his DNA tested.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, interesting. What for? She says, well, it's for the race, the specific, where in Africa and what exactly where that is. And it's like, oh, really? Why are they doing that? Oh, well, it's, the fast twitch muscles versus the slow muscles and all that kind of stuff. They vary depending on race. And I said, depending on race, within a race, you can have someone who's a bodybuilder and you can have someone who's a long-distance runner. So how does that work? She's like, I don't really know. And I think this is a trend with a lot of people who go out and they get these DNA tests to see what race they are and what kind of muscles they should be building. Now, if it's specifically on the individual, I get that.
Yeah.
The individual is very different from the race. And an individual, you can tell with the DNA kind of what you should be eating and how you should be working out and things like that. But within a race, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because within a race, they vary so vastly.
Sure. I think we are looking at like recovery and different things that we can do.
Yeah.
We've kind of addressed those three things.
Yeah.
As far as like get adequate sleep,
Yeah.
get proper nutrition, and train properly. And then don't overdo it. Train, I guess, make sure you're using proper biomechanics when you're training, and then don't overtrain those muscles as well.
So let's talk about what enough sleep means.
Okay, definitely.
What does enough sleep mean?
I think based on the research and what I've looked at, there's a lot of studies saying, okay, yeah, you need to get 8 hours of sleep. And that seems to be generally what everyone should get. Now, I think it's on an individual basis as well, and we should listen to our own bodies.
So what does that mean? What does that look like?
For me personally, for me...
How do we listen to our bodies? How do we...
Oh, I think it's like if we start getting sick, if we're paying attention to the signs of how we feel, for example, like last night, I told you the story earlier, I'm like, I feel like I need to do some type of exercise. I've been doing a lot of paddleboarding and, walking, things like that, and I've kind of been so busy, I've skipped out on the gym the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, I need to do something. So, to me, that was like my body telling me, look, you've got excess calories, you got carbs, you need to burn those, you need to push those muscles a little bit. So I'll go and crank out like 15 pull-ups in my kitchen.
Well, let's talk specifically about sleep.
Yeah. Oh, specifically about sleep?
Yeah, how do you listen to your body about getting enough
I guess
sleep?
the point and what I was getting to as far as exercise goes is I cranked out these push-ups and did not sleep well at all last night.
Oh, okay.
Because I raised my heart rate up, I raised my core temperature, and I dilated blood vessels and capillaries, and it's telling my body, hey, I'm ready to go.
Right.
Let's do some exercise, and rather than telling me it's time to go to sleep. So I think if we're, there's going to be one of those three factors that are involved that we talked about on recovery when it comes to sleep. So if we're tired all the time, and we're not doing anything about it, we need to look at our weight. Are we overweight? Do we have toxins that are building up within our body? Do we need to do fasting, intermittent fasting, whatever that takes to get rid of those toxins and get rid of that excess fat? Do we need to exercise more to increase lower our blood pressure, increase our circulatory system, our heart rate, get that back up so it can our resting heart rate is better. I think there's multiple different factors. It's not just like one overall thing that we can say, here's what you need to do, and it applies to everyone as a whole.
Well, I mean, there are some general ideas
Yeah.
that can apply to a lot of people. As a species, humans basically evolved from a place where we were hunters and gatherers.
Sure.
And back then, we would actually, a good friend Alex Charpin talks about this a lot. He would say that back then we were actually more used to sleeping for 4 hours at a time. So what would
Sure.
happen is we would sleep for 4 hours and we'd get up, we'd check for predators, we'd go around and
Yeah.
make sure everything was okay.
We still do. I mean, based on research studies that I've looked at, our bodies go in these 4-hour cycles still.
Right.
So, I mean, the sleep cycle or the depth of sleep that we're in, we go in this deeper sleep, then we start to come out of it during different cycles. But
Right.
like the deepest one, and at that 4-hour cycle, we come completely out of it.
Right.
And I find myself waking up all the time after 4 hours. I'll wake up, I'll go get a drink of water,
Yeah.
I fall back asleep.
Totally natural, yeah.
Yeah.
And most
So-
people say, no, you got to sleep 8 hours.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't agree with that. I think sleeping for 4 hours at a time is a very natural.
But if that's
thing to
all you were sleeping, yes, there are some certain individuals
not
that can
just
get
4
by on
hours.
4 hours. No, I think
do. I've got two friends who are amazing in their business realm, and they get typically 2 to 4 hours of sleep every single
I mean,
night.
that's very rare that happens, because the majority of people that I've found, need to get 8 hours of sleep
Right.
to be at their optimal functioning.
Yep.
And some people
Yep.
need a little more, some people need a little less, and it depends. I think also it depends on that quality of sleep that you're getting too. So
Right.
if there's things that are distracting you in the night, if the temperature is off, if say you live next to a train station, and the train is going by every couple hours, you're not going to be sleeping well, because you're going to get woken up by those external factors unless you're able to tune those out. So, there's a lot of different things that play into.
Sure, I'm guessing most
scenario.
people don't live by a train.
No.
But
But there's people that live in different places, where it can be distracting, there can
Yeah.
be lights.
Yeah, right.
So what I wanted to address is like,
Did you want to hit the videos first?
yeah, no, definitely I want to hit the videos, but, later on in the show, we're going to go through all these different things and tips that we can do to get
You
a
have
better
three tips?
No, there's
many do you
like
have?
17 different things that I want to
17
address. We'll go through them quickly because some of them overlap and they play on
So these are
one
applicable
another.
to everybody. By the way.
Applicable to everyone.
Yeah.
Not just like, there are things that you should be doing or things that will help you get a better night's sleep. But first off, speaking of sleep, I came across this funny viral video clip, which I want to play about. Have you seen the chainsaw one?
Oh, yeah.
So basically, we'll play it for people who haven't seen it. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but I think it's hilarious.
I didn't see
Maybe
it.
just because
I watch a lot of videos, and I hadn't
yeah.
seen it. So.
I played pranks on my kids before, like for April Fools. There was one time
These poor kids.
I put stuff all over their face, so when they got up and looked in the mirror, they had, markers all over them, but they were washable ones.
Should we show that video?
So, but the video, I just want to set it up a little bit, is the kids, and the mom will say this, the kids were watching like a chainsaw horror movie, and they were terrified, so they slept together in the same bed.
With the light on.
Yeah, let's play the clip on what the dad does to kind of get them back and kind of teach them, hey, you shouldn't be watching scary movies.
Yeah.
Last night, a boy stayed up late to watch Texas Chainsaw Cheerleader Massacre. This morning, we found them huddled together under the blankets in one bed, all the lights on. Dad just can't miss this kind of chance to eat the boys.
Those poor
So the best one is like where he falls back. He's like, yeah, grabs the blind and rips it off the wall.
blinds fell down.
But anyways, it's kind of mean, but it's also
Oh,
fun.
that dad.
Yeah, exactly. So
I bow down. Good job, Dad. Good job, Dad.
exactly. So what we want to do next is we came across, what was the guy's name? The doctor guy on CBS.
Oh, I don't know.
Matt
Walker?
Matt Walker?
Walker, I
I
think,
think
yeah.
you're right, Matt Walker.
Yeah.
So let's show that clip because he goes over something really interesting in this news clip that I came across last night. And one fascinating thing that I found is there's a protein that builds up if we do not get enough sleep. And that leads to Alzheimer's, it leads to other diseases, other problems. And he covers kind of a gambit of topics here where he talks about sleep as an epidemic. And he gives a couple different scenarios and solutions and things that we can do as well.
This guy's pretty amazing. I've watched a few of his videos.
Let's play that clip, the CBS News one.
Nearly 2/3 of Americans do not get a full 8 hours of sleep. Did you hear that? Now, one researcher is sounding the alarm about what he calls a silent sleep loss epidemic. He is scientist Matthew Walker. He's devoted more than 20 years to studying sleep and its impact on health and disease, so he knows what he's talking about. He teaches neuroscience and psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, and he's published more than 100 scientific studies.
Walker's new book is Why We Sleep, Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams. He says sleep deprivation has a catastrophic impact on our health, work productivity, and children's education. The book is published by Scribner, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, a division of CBS. Matt Walter, good morning.
Good morning.
The greatest challenge that America faces in the health arena?
I think it's fast becoming one of the greatest public health challenges that we now face. Every disease that is killing us in developed nations, from cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, stroke, even suicide, they all have significant and causal links to insufficient sleep. And if you look at the epidemiological data, it's quite clear too, short sleep equals a shorter life. It predicts all-cause mortality.
What's the link?
The link actually is many-fold. So upstairs in the brain, we know that it creates a toxic protein buildup, a protein that's called beta amyloid. That toxic sticky protein is related to Alzheimer's. Downstairs in the body, it demolishes your immune system if you're not getting sufficient sleep. And it also activates stress chemistry that leads to cardiovascular disease, increases in also cancer-related molecules. You also want to eat more when you're not getting sufficient sleep.
So you're fatter.
So you gain weight more quickly. Also, even if you're exercising, we used to think of sleep as the third pillar of good health. That's not true. It's actually the foundation on which those two other things sit, diet and exercise.
What's so great about your book is it's research-based. It's epidemiologically based. 1/3 of adults take naps. What does the research say about that?
Well, naps are a double-edged sword. You have to be quite careful. Firstly, ask yourself, why are you napping? Sleep is not like the bank, it turns out. You can't accumulate a debt and then pay it off either by napping or oversleeping at the weekend. It's an all-or-nothing event. Naps also can be dangerous in the sense that during the day, the longer that we're awake, we build up sleepiness, and that's good. It's healthy. It means that we'll fall asleep and stay asleep well at night. But if you nap during the afternoon, it's almost like a valve on a pressure cooker. You release some of that sleepiness, so then it makes it that much more difficult to fall asleep and stay asleep.
It adds to your productivity, and you have good feeling as well.
So naps, if you can make them regular, can have productivity benefits. And in fact,
You say don't nap after 3 p.m.
if you're struggling with sleep in the evening, or if you can't nap regularly, the advice is don't nap at all. But naps do have some benefits to them. NASA figured this out back in the 1980s. They called it the NASA nap culture. It improved work productivity by about 34%, overall alertness by about 50%. So if they're regular, that's good.
You write about sleeping pills, the bad, and the ugly. Tell us why.
Well, firstly, sleeping pills do not produce naturalistic sleep. I wish they did, but at this stage they don't. They're a class of drugs that we call the sedative hypnotics, and sedation is not sleep. So you're simply removing consciousness, you're not producing naturalistic sleep. The second aspect is that they've been related to a higher risk of mortality, of death, and a higher risk of cancer too.
So just make sure we get to this. So what do you do to make sure you get as much sleep as you should?
So I think there are probably 5 key tips. Firstly, keep it regular. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, no matter what. The second is darkness. We're actually a dark-deprived society. So at night, try to dim your lights, only put half of the lights on, you don't need them all, limit screen time. that allows that sort of melatonin hormone to build up and get you to sleep. Keep it cool. Bedroom
65
temperature.
degrees, you said.
65 to 67. It's strange, isn't
I'm
it?
turning it down, yeah. I've been doing that, yeah.
But your body needs to drop its temperature to get to sleep, and you can help it to do that. That's the third thing, temperature. The fourth is actually walk it out. Don't stay in bed if you've been awake, because then at that point your brain learns the association between your bedroom being about being awake. And many people will say to me, you know, I'm sort of falling asleep on the couch with television. I get into my bed and I'm wide awake and I don't know why, because you've learned the association between bedroom being about wakefulness. Get out, go to a different room, dark light, dim light, read a book. Only return when you're sleepy, and then you'll relearn the association between your bed equaling sleepiness. Finally, and it makes me deeply unpopular, no caffeine after 2 p.m. and no nightcap. Alcohol is probably one of the most misunderstood chemicals. It's also a sedative. You're just knocking yourself out. It's not naturalistic sleep. And it also fragments your sleep. You wake up many more times throughout the night. And it also blocks your dream sleep.
Yeah.
So no alcohol.
And you didn't mention food.
Food, the advice right now is don't go to bed too full, don't go to bed too hungry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Sleep cures a lot of things. Yeah.
Why We Sleep is on sale now.
Yeah, this guy's awesome.
No, I thought it was some very good advice. I mean, I had written down some tips and research and looked up some things that we could do, and it included all 5 of those things that Dr. Matt was talking about as well.
Yeah, so I think something interesting that he was talking about, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this as well, which is neurons that fire together, wire together, meaning if you're in bed and you're awake for a long period of time, you're actually putting those 2 things in your brain together.
That it's okay to be in bed and be awake, and then you don't want to sleep.
Yeah, exactly right.
So I've found that sometimes, like, I'll be like, I can't sleep, and this happens every once in a while. I'll be like, I'll get out my iPad, I'll surf YouTube, I'll look at videos and different things like that. And, you know, one thing that he doesn't talk about, which is a growing problem, is electronics. And so electronics emit this blue light, and he talks about sleeping in a darkened room and the importance of that. Well, blue light, like if we have TV in our room and we're watching TV before we go to bed, we're reducing the amount of melatonin that our bodies are producing. And so these gamma blue light waves are also impeding and stopping us from getting a good night's sleep and telling us, hey, it's time to wake up. You know, because the blue light is basically associated with the sun. That's daylight. That's when we should be up. So that's why he says sleep in a darkened room, block out all lights, anything that's there, because that'll increase melatonin levels and allow us to get to sleep. And if you have to be on your computer at night, or you feel, look, I want to watch TV, what I found is I got on eBay, not eBay, but Amazon for $15. I found these gamma blue light blocking glasses that are basically yellow, and I found those help.
So there's like yellow and orange glasses that work really well.
And they block out all the blue light. So those are, the blue light actually is destroying your eyes as well. And so I got a pair of those, you know, because I wear contacts. So I got a prescription strength, and I got a regular just clear strength. So, you know, I can use those when I'm just sitting down and looking at my computer monitor as well throughout the day. So, or on your phone. A lot of us look at our phones, and those emit blue light as well. There is a setting on there. You can change it to drop that down as well.
Right. So here's the thing about, I mean, this will help in a lot of different areas, but there's a book called Motivation Doesn't Work, and it's interesting. It talks about environment rather than motivation. So it talks about how we have a certain amount of willpower throughout the day, and at the end of the day, we don't have much willpower. So we have a finite amount of willpower, and once we get through that, you know, if you're sitting in bed and you're like, oh, I've got to go to sleep, and sometimes your willpower is just like, I'm not going to sleep, I don't care. But
does that apply to cookies?
Yeah, it does. It applies to a lot of things, right? And basically what he says is what's more important than motivation is environment. And so if you're...
that makes sense.
If you can set up your bedroom to be the place that you sleep, you don't have a TV in there, you don't have electronics in there, you don't have all these things that are distracting from sleep, you're much more likely to sleep.
That's one of the tips. It's like create a relaxing environment. Obviously, you wouldn't paint your walls bright orange, energetic colors. So it's like
Right.
use calm. And what they found in research is some of the best colors are muted grays and blue colors that are relaxing, and some greens. So if you're going to go with colors, it says pick colors that are found in nature that are calming and relaxing. Secondly, block out all the light that you can from the windows.
Right,
That's another thing, dealing with the environment. And then lastly,
have screens.
save your bed
Yeah.
for sleep, not
Right.
for eating,
Yeah, right.
not for surfing the internet, not
Right.
for watching movies. Save it for sleeping and for sex is what they point out. That's really all your bed should be for, and that creates
Hopefully
that
not
mentality.
at the same time, but yes.
Yeah. So anyways, the next thing that's funny that you brought up number 2 right away, and we covered that one.
Yeah.
The third one is like sleep in a cool room. So as our core body temperature drops, we are designed to sleep and get a better night's sleep. So I thought it was kind of interesting because I was watching this show last night on sleep, and it was telling us that we should be sleeping in an environment that's 65 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap, can you imagine your electric bill if you lived in Arizona and you're cranking your AC down to 65? So obviously not everyone can do that depending on what environment and where we live at. In Utah, fortunately, that's very easy for us to turn the heater down to 65
Yeah, with us
in
in
the
Park
winter.
City,
Yeah.
we can do that almost
Yeah.
every night. Last night I slept with the window open. It was probably
Nice.
60 degrees.
And I've noticed that, like when I go camping up in the
Yeah.
mountains, you don't sleep as long, but it's like I slept really well.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're sleeping on
I mean,
rocks.
you
or
don't want to
something
like get
that.
down to like 30 degrees.
No,
I mean,
no, obviously. But they said that's the ideal one because temperature is a big factor, and it's kind of like what I did last night. I went and cranked out, 15 pull-ups right before bed, and then I raised my core temperature,
That raises
and
your
it took me
temperature, yeah.
longer for me to
Right.
get to sleep. So you want to avoid exercising right before bed. Try to do that like an hour, maybe 2 hours before. Don't eat right before. If you are, eat moderately. Don't eat a huge meal because then you're going to have digestive problems
Right.
and issues, and you're going to have difficulty falling asleep. Another one is like sleep naked, and that really ties down to the cool temperature scenario.
Right.
And also, if we're, wearing clothing that's going to get hot, pajamas, robe, whatever, you guys sleep in, think about this. A lot of times we make a lot of movements in the sleep. We're twisting to one side, we change positions, and sometimes that clothing can restrict, it can cut off circulation, which causes us to wake up as well, and it impairs our sleep.
Right.
And then another one is like free your mind, like from
and
the
the
stress.
rest will follow.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that a song?
It is. Free
So-
your mind.
and the rest will follow.
Dun,
So
dun, dun.
that's a good song.
Yeah, it is.
So anyways, that sounds easier to do than it really is. It's like, look, just get rid of the stress. Let it all go. No, that's a difficult thing. So if you have to meditate, and I think a lot of it is like what you talked about, Nate, is prepping.
Yeah.
By creating that environment, whether it's like listening to relaxing music, whether it's like white noise or waterfalls, they have all those different sleep machines that create an environment for our brain and the repetition and kind of help us fall asleep. If that works, do that.
Again,
Yeah.
neurons that fire together wire together. So
Exactly. So I like that concept of like create and keep it for sleep. Keep that room for sleep. So, and then he goes on and he talks about like no alcohol, and caffeine is a big factor. If you feel that you have to drink coffee throughout the day, caffeine is a vasoconstrictor. And so it's raising our blood pressure, which if you think about when we get excited or nervous, our blood pressure goes up. And that elevated blood pressure makes it difficult for us to fall asleep. Plus, those neurons are firing within our brain when we add caffeine to that mix. So if you can avoid caffeine, after 3 p.m., you're going to be better off at sleeping. So don't drink your Monster energy drinks after 3, 4 p.m. at the latest. And then another one is like posture. Find a good mattress, find a good pillow. And then one thing that I found is like sealing your mattress. So we have mites in our bed, a lot of dust, and those build up. Those can cause problems with asthma or with breathing difficulties in the night because of dust mites. And one thing that I thought was interesting is I was always taught by my mom, you got to wake up and make your bed. Well, research shows that by making your bed, you trap all those dust mites that are on our body and on our skin into the bed, and they thrive in that dark kind of moisture environment. So if we can leave the bed and the sheets pulled back, open the windows, the sun kills and dries out and kills all those dust mites, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Cool.
So, and then stick to a schedule. So like you said, create that environment.
Right.
So the key is repetition. So once we find something that works for us, stick to that.
So you know what I absolutely love?
Yeah, let's hear it.
There's an app called Sleep Cycle. Have you ever used it?
No.
So what it does, so I go to bed at the same
I have a watch that kind of tracks it, though.
That's awesome. I go to bed about the same time. I have an alarm, so I go to bed at the same time. But basically, you tell Sleep Cycle, I would like to wake up around this time.
Okay, and then it tells you what time to go to bed, or no?
No. It has an alarm that goes off slowly, increasing volume. But basically, it senses when your body, your sleep cycle. So it senses when your body is coming
the
out of an
circadian
REM.
rhythms, all that stuff?
Yeah, it senses when your body's coming out of REM. So it doesn't say exactly at this time. It basically senses you. And when you start to come out of REM, when you start to come
So
out
when you
of your
said it
sleep
senses
cycle,
you, is that based off of like research that they've done for sleep, or is it sent you individually?
individually, yeah.
How does it do that?
So it does it through microphone and through movements.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And that's called sleep cycle?
sleep cycle. And
Interesting.
so when you're getting out of REM, when you're getting out of your sleep, your deep sleep.
So you have to put your phone like right next to you pretty much then for it to
Yeah,
sense.
it's pretty close to you, yeah. And then basically it senses when you're coming out, and so naturally you're able to come out much easier than if you were to set
Then
an
being
alarm in the middle of
abruptly broken
REM.
up, yeah.
Because that's jolting, you don't feel as refreshed when you wake up. And so with this, you feel more refreshed, it feels better.
Here's the worst dream that I had.
Yeah.
So the worst dream, when I was in high school, I had this dream that I got up, got ready for school. My alarm went off. I dreamed that I shut it off on snooze.
Okay.
I got up, got dressed, brushed my teeth, ate breakfast, went to school, and then I woke up. And I had to do the same thing all over again. I was like, are you kidding me? I was so mad. I was like, now I got to repeat it. I just did all that. You ever had one of those dreams?
Yes, I have.
It's kind of funny.
Yes, I have.
But anyways, let's go to, there's a couple other things.
You have those dreams where you have to go to the bathroom. And
Oh, yeah. And then you peed all over yourself?
Yeah, right. There we go.
So,
sharing this on
no, I have had that happen. It's like you had to pee so bad, and then you had this dream that you're like peeing, and like it just starts, like you just barely, you're like, oh no! I was like killing myself.
It's real.
It's just a dream. So anyways, the next one is like exercise. So if we're exercising, we're increasing our blood flow, we're releasing toxins from our body, and that helps us sleep better. So if you're not exercising on a regular basis, then you're going to have difficulty sleeping. If sleep's a problem for you, you should maybe look into exercising more.
What I thought was interesting with that interview on CBS was that he was saying that sleep is kind of the base for exercise and food, and that if you can get, so it's, backwards and forwards, right? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Yes, exercise is going to help you sleep better. But sleeping more is going to help your exercise so that you actually internalize, you
Yes,
actually
you can
build bigger muscles.
exercise better too
Yeah,
and
exactly.
work out.
Okay.
So it's going to make your body more, I guess, effective.
Yeah, exactly.
And then eat less is another thing. So like a lot of people eat right before bed. Sometimes people watch TV, they'll eat snacks, and then they're like, I don't know why I'm having difficulty sleeping. Yeah, you loaded a whole bunch of sugar into your body.
Yeah.
And now it's like all this fuel and everything. So I think it depends on what you eat.
Right.
I think it depends on the individual. Now, for me, there's been times in my life where I can eat like a light snack and I'm fine sleeping. There's other times that it keeps me awake.
Right.
Because it's like your digestive system is working. And lately I've found that the older I get, I'm better off not eating before meals at all, because then I'm able
Before bed, you mean?
Yeah, before bed. Not before meals. Don't eat before meals.
Don't eat before your meals.
And then the last thing is like less water. So yeah, it's important to be hydrated throughout the day and get plenty of water, because that's key for exercise. It's key for our bodies to work optimally. But if you're having to get up and having to pee multiple times in the night because you drank so much water right before you went to bed, then that's a factor. If you have BPH or prostate problems or something like that, obviously you would want to drink less water right before going to bed.
So here's the thing for me. I actually get a lot of sleep. I'll go to bed and I won't set an alarm clock, and I'll just allow my body to wake itself up
Sure.
when it's had enough sleep. I actually will eat right before bed. I will drink a lot of water before I go to bed.
But are you waking up after 4 hours, which that's okay if you're doing that then?
I mean, certainly I do wake up in the middle of the night, but not very often. Actually,
Okay.
most of the time my body metabolizes it all and uses it all to repair.
Yeah. I'm just saying that kind of as a word of caution. If that's waking you up in the night
Yeah,
because
right.
you drank too much water, cut back
Well,
on the
and
water.
guys, here, the rule of thumb is listen to your body. Period. That is the best advice anybody could ever give another person. These tips are specifically to help you see what's happening with your body, to help you listen to your body. So,
Right.
so if you're not getting enough sleep, if you are waking up a lot, maybe it's your water. Maybe you're eating too much before bed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different reasons, and that's why we're giving you these tips.
And that's why we kind of addressed everything and looked
Yeah.
at this whole gambit of things that you could do.
Right.
And if, there's
the
there's
point is
people
to
that
listen to
are
your body.
there's people that have so bad insomnia that I've come across and talked to because we have a sleep formula called Somarest. And people are always like, how does this work? What does it do?
Yeah.
I'll have people that are just desperate. They're like, I haven't slept for like 4 days.
Wow.
And they're like, I need to do something. I need to get some sleep. What can I do?
Yeah.
And there's multiple factors. And so, yes, some of these things some of these people may be doing those things. But I think if we can create the ideal scenario to fall asleep, we're going to be less dependent on sleeping aids or prescription drugs or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, like they talk about in that CBS interview,
Yeah.
those prescription drugs are really just a Band-Aid. And a lot of these over-the-counter things are a Band-Aid. They're not addressing the real problem, and they're a sedative, and they're also damaging to our kidney and to our livers.
Right.
And so, one thing that we have a natural sleep product.
Which, by the way, I've taken. When I took I'm not taking it at the moment, but when I was taking it, it allowed me deeper sleep. So, again, I'm a good
Yeah.
sleeper. I sleep pretty well. But when I was taking it, I felt like I was further removed while I was sleeping, which means I was getting a much deeper sleep,
Yeah.
which allowed me to repair
The
my
one
body
thing that's
better.
in there, the reason we came up with that product is there was a lot of research that had come out on dopamine and gamma-aminobutyric acid.
Okay.
And so doctors were prescribing dopamine, L-Dopa, and GABA to patients for sleep. And the reason for that is because most people, they have this restless mind syndrome, and they have this anxiety, and they're stressed, or they're uptight, or they're depressed, and they can't sleep. And what the dopamine and the GABA does is it signals our brains and releases it ties into those receptors and makes us feel happy and relaxed. Okay. And so that's why, when we developed that product, I'm like, look, these are two natural ingredients
that
they're
what's in
doing.
yours?
Yeah, there's gamma-aminobutyric acid, there's L-dopamine in there, and then we've also, it's kind of a kitchen sink approach. So there's like L-theanine, which is found in turkey. Tryptophan.
Okay.
There's L-theanine, which is found in cocoa. And it's kind of like this
So,
whole
yeah,
kitchen sink approach
Yeah.
where we researched and we looked at everything out there in the marketplace that helps you fall asleep, whether that's, physically, like lavender that's causing you to kind of feel drowsy,
Yeah.
or whether it's affecting your mind, whether you have this restless mind syndrome and
Right.
it allows your mind to be relaxed and let go. And so it doesn't make you groggy the next day, and it allows you to
That
fall
was the
asleep.
major thing. I don't know if you guys have ever
Yeah.
had like caffeine.
I know. I have
where
a
you
friend
get
that drinks like
jittery and
half
it's,
a thing of freaking
physically-
NyQuil to go to sleep, and I'm like, that is not healthy.
There's so many things out there that just make you feel weird. Like
Yeah.
physically, it's just a different feeling.
And this product doesn't do that. You feel calm, you feel
Yeah.
relaxed, you wake up energized, and you're
Yeah.
like, wow, I slept a lot better.
Which, by the way, is why I like a lot of your supplements, is because they're more about helping you mentally feel better and doesn't get your like the physicality of it. It's not like super, like
Like a drug or something like that.
Yeah, it's not like a drug, like your pre-workout. It doesn't like hype me up and get me jittery. It just allows me to
Gives
feel
you
more
energy for the workout. Same.
Yeah, right.
And you talked about that recovery. I mean, you've been taking the electroamino, which is basically BCAAs and electrolytes.
Right.
And BCAAs are key for recovery, for repair, for restoration. So if you're pushing your bodies hard, look at BCAAs, because that electroamino product is going to get you hydrated.
Yeah.
It's going to get rid of the lactic acid
Right.
buildup that gets in our muscles, and it's going to allow for better recovery.
Strangely enough, I
and
actually
repair.
drink that all day long because
Yeah, that's
I'll
good.
work out in the morning, I'll work out in the evening, and I have to have that repair. But I mean, honestly, that
Yeah.
really is a big deal.
So if you guys are looking, if you're interested in the products that we've
Check
been
out
talking
Somarest,
about,
seriously.
yeah, go to somarest.com, SOMAREST.com, or you can go to highenergylabs.com. That's HIGHENERGYLABS.com. If you go to the website, the products are all there. There's discount codes. Well, matter of fact, let's just do a discount code for today. If you type in sleep, that'll give you 25% off of the Somarest product. If you guys want to try that product, it's an amazing product. I sleep pretty much well for the most part, but every once in a while, if I'm having difficulty getting to sleep, I take that, and I'm out.
Yeah,
So,
I highly recommend it, guys.
cool. But anything else you want to add, Nate?
You know, again, it just comes down to your own body. You just gotta listen and figure out what's happening with your body. And yeah, definitely, if you're not sleeping, don't stay in bed. Don't, neurons will fire together, wire together type of
Right.
thing. Just make sure. But on top of that, if you're high performance, like me, you've got to find a way to rest and repair. That's why I do eat before bed. That's why I do drink before bed, because in my sleep, I know my body is repairing the most. That's really the one time that your body can just, calm down, relax, allow all of the muscles
I'll
to
sometimes
repair.
do like protein shakes. If I'm working and pushing out hard, I'll do like a protein
There
shake
are-
before bed.
There are a lot of bodybuilders who actually will eat a bunch of peanut butter before bed on
peanut
purpose. Yeah, because that, again, helps with the protein.
Sure,
yeah.
sure. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. Nate or I will try to answer those for you. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the show. And Nate, thanks for being on the show today, man. I
Pleasure,
appreciate
brother.
it. Yeah. So thanks for watching, guys. Tune in next week, every Tuesday. So it varies from time, but we try to keep it consistently about 1 o'clock. So right around that time. Thanks again, guys.